And the last book on this list would sound... Why not talk about more books that I want to read, because my list is never ending. Why did I scream that? And it's called The Perfect Wife. No, it's not. It's not called that at all. Hi everyone, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. For anyone who's new here, welcome and thanks for stopping by, and for anyone who's returning, thanks for coming back. Today's video is going to be about some 2019 releases, and I had done a video back in December about kind of my most anticipated, and it literally feels like every time I blink or look up or check my email, there's some announcement about a new book that's coming out. And I love a new book. I especially love a new book by an author that I love, so no complaints here. But I don't know if I missed these the first time around or they weren't announced at that point, but neither here nor there. There's a whole bunch of new books coming out that I wanted to talk about. And I feel like this is going to be an ongoing thing all year long as things continue to get announced, so maybe it'll be a series, maybe these will just pop up at random, but let's just talk about some new books. So typical me fashion, these are in no particular order at all, but I'll include any info I have about when they're getting released, so you guys know kind of when to mark them on your calendars and when to keep an eye out for them. The first book is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and I've talked about him before on my channel. I absolutely loved his debut, Final Girls. I liked but didn't love as much The Last Time I Lied, which was his second book, but I'm really excited for this third one, and I think he's a great author, he's a great storyteller, and I'm just loving, what he does. So I'm curious to see what he comes up with next. And I will say for most of these books, there's kind of little to nothing on them. But this one is about a woman named Jules who is apartment sitting in some fancy schmancy building in Manhattan. And I believe it's a fake building, but I think it's probably supposed to be the Dakota or something on the Upper East Side. And she meets one of the other residents, this woman, Isabel, I think her name is, who's basically telling her this place isn't what you think it is, and it's not all it appears to be. And Jules kind of writes it off as she's a little cray and it's a ghost story and whatever. But then Isabel disappears the next day. So obviously something shady's going on. And I love me something shady, and I love me some Riley Sager. So excited for this one to come out. The second book is The Perfect Wife by J.P. Delaney. And J.P. Delaney wrote The Girl Before, which is a book that has mixed feedback, but I really liked it. And I'm, obviously game for anything else that he writes. And this one is about a woman named Abby. And yes, her name's Abby. And she, I guess, kind of basically wakes up and doesn't know who she is and doesn't remember anything about her past. And, kind of the man that she wakes up with, I don't know if she's in a hospital or what have you, is her husband. And he's like, I'm your husband, you're a wife, you're a mom, here's a whole bunch of things about you. 5 years ago, she apparently was in some horrible accident. And then I'm guessing there's some sort of, I don't know if it's sci-fi per se, but some sort of science-y element to it, where there's apparently some sort of scientific development or something that happened that they were able to sort of bring her back. So I don't know if she died, this is all kind of vague. I don't know if they brought her back from the dead, if she was in a coma, I don't really know. But he assures her hey, we're your family, this is who you are, you're great, you're fine, don't worry about it. But something just isn't sitting right with her. So she, I guess, starts to look into what happened 5 years ago, tries to piece things together. And I'm going to guess, just because this is kind of domestic thrillery type of a thing, I'm going to guess the story the husband's telling her doesn't quite match up with what she's finding out. So this seems a little creepy also. Again, love me some creepy shady. So I'm excited for this one. Next up is I Know Who You Are by Alice Feeney. And Alice Feeney wrote Sometimes I Lie, which is another book that I read in 2018 that I really liked. Again, kind of psychological domestic thriller. And this book is kind of about husband and wife, and the wife is an actress, and I guess her husband disappears. So she's not quite sure how to act or what to do, and the police get involved, and they think she's hiding something, and she is basically the blurb on this one. So it sounds a little reverse Gone Girl. It sounds a little marriage lie. It sounds a little lie to me. It sounds like, you know, sort of this husband-wife, what happened, disappearance type of a thing. And I very much enjoy these types of books. I read a whole lot of them. Like I said, I really like Sometimes I Lie, so I'm excited to see what Alice Feeney comes up with next. The next book is a new book from Clare Mackintosh called After the End. And there was like really very, very little on this book, but it was kind of like, I believe it's like another husband-wife kind of a thing, but it's like having to make difficult choices and living with those choices. And that's kind of all I could find about it, but that's okay because I don't think it's coming out for a bit. But I just read Let Me Lie in January for Buzzwordathon and I loved it. And I had read a couple years ago, I guess, I Let You Go by her. So she's a really good writer. She's got some good twists. She's great at character development. I really love her characters, but I think she just does a really good job of, you know, bringing you into the story and the humanity and the emotions of it. And she does throw in some good twists, which is always fun. But I have totally enjoyed her first two books. I feel like I'm going to be a broken record. Obviously, I'm excited for this book. It's why it's on the list. I would not be sitting here talking about a book I don't care about, but I'm very curious to see what she comes up with next. I had talked about in her last book that the police officer in that book, Murray, I loved him, and I hope that he makes some sort of a reappearance in one of her books. I don't know anything about this book, like I said, and I don't know if he's coming back, but until I hear more, I'm going to secretly dream that Murray is in this book too. But if not, obviously I'm reading it anyway. So small sidebar, what I was noticing when I was kind of like going through books, so many of them either have the word wife in it or the word perfect in it or both those words put together. So I really feel like there could be a buzzwordathon with either one of these, you know, words in it, and we would not be at a loss for finding things to read. But anyway, moving on. My random book is, it's called My Lovely Wife, and it's by Samantha Downing. And this is the one, I had not heard of Samantha Downing before, and I kind of just randomly came across it. And this was sort of pitched as like a Dexter meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And it's a married couple, they have kids, they moved to the suburbs like years ago and sort of settled into this kind of routine of a life. And they're looking to sort of spice up their marriage a bit. And apparently they spiced it up by killing people. So to each their own, but I will say I thoroughly enjoyed Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I love this kind of wild concept about like how to spice up your sleepy suburban life and marriage by killing people. And I will admit I'm not a huge Dexter person. I had a hard time getting into it. However many years ago it came out and I never tried again, but I do know the concept of Dexter where he, you know, tries to like right wrongs and sort of only kills bad people. So maybe they don't just sort of arbitrarily murder random people. Maybe they just sort of avenge people. I don't know. So anyway, this one sounds fun. I'm always game for somebody new, but I love, again, the concept of this one, and I'm excited to check out something new. The next book I have is The Last Time I Saw You by Liv Constantine. And they wrote, Liv Constantine is a sister team, and they wrote The Last Mrs. Parrish, which I really enjoyed. And that book is, it's dark and messed up, and I feel like it's one of those books, again, that has some mixed reviews, but I really enjoyed it. These all say something about me. These are all basically thriller books that I'm talking about, but I'm excited to see what's next. This book has nothing to do with the first, and this is about two friends, Kate and Blair. So Kate's mother is murdered, and Blair, I don't know if they don't live in the same town anymore, but they grew up together. They were like best friends from like elementary school, like through college, and then something happens at or around Kate's wedding where they aren't friends anymore. But because her mom is murdered, Blair is back in her life, and they kind of like pick up where they left off, and Kate is leaning on her shoulder and Blair's helping her along, and the police have not found the murderer yet, of course, because we need to have somebody like crazed out in the background. And apparently the murderer is kind of like taunting Kate and, you know, tormenting her. So Blair is there to help her friend, support her friend, and kind of figure out what the hell happened to her mom. So I love the idea of, hopefully unlike The Last Mrs. Parrish, these are women who are truly in it together for each other. And, you know, I just love the idea of you do sort of grow apart from friends over time and things can happen. I don't know what the drama is in this book of why they're not friends, but I've certainly have lost touch with friends of mine from college. So the concept is sort of being brought back together and picking up where you left off and sort of, having that friend back in your life conceptually, I like. And then you throw in some murder and I like it even more. The next book is by Kimberly Belle, and it's called Dear Wife. And Kimberly Belle wrote The Marriage Lie, which I read last year and loved. Again, broken record. Loved books they wrote before, excited for books that they're writing next. And this book, I'm not totally clear on it, so it's like there's a woman on the run and there's a woman who goes missing. And I don't know if they're the same woman or if it's two parallel stories. I'm totally not sure. And again, it's fine. I don't need to know. But it's sort of like, what you will do to survive. And the woman who's missing has a husband and, he's sort of left wondering what happened and where is she and why would she leave him? And I guess, kind of he becomes the suspect because again, this becomes sort of typical, spouse is always sort of the first one. So again, not wholly sure what's happening in this one, but I did really enjoy The Marriage Lie. I loved her writing. I loved the twist. I loved the quick pace of it. Again, another great book with great characters in it. So The Marriage Lie is the only Kimberly Belle book I read, and she's got some other books that I want to read and I just haven't gotten my hands on them yet, but I'm excited to see what else she's got going forward, in her collection and going onto her backlist, I would say. But very excited for this one. So a book that I have no details on, I guess Paula Hawkins apparently has a book coming out around October. So there's no name for it, there's no cover for it, there's nothing. I searched all around. If anybody knows anything about it, let me know. But I am one of those people who totally loved The Girl on the Train. And again, I feel like this is another divisive book. And I feel like thrillers can be that way. Like I think some people have sort of such strong expectations, or some people are like super smart and crafty and can figure things out. There's for sure people who don't like that unreliable narrator. I really do. But I loved The Girl on the Train, and I didn't love Into the Water, her second book. I had a hard time connecting with it. I read the whole thing, but I just didn't have that same sort of visceral reaction to it. But I have high hopes for Paula Hawkins. Yeah, I think she's a great storyteller. I almost feel like Into the Water is one of those books that I need to revisit again somewhere down the road, because maybe I missed something. Maybe it's just not for me. I don't know. But as a writer, I'm excited to see what she comes up with next. I feel like The Girl on the Train was sort of one of those unexpected runaway hits that the bar is so high. So for me, it was hard to meet it. So maybe I sort of brought my own sort of prejudices into, wanting something exceptional and something great. So anyway, we'll see. Again, not a lot of details on this other than the fact that apparently, supposedly, if you believe Goodreads, there's a blank-faced book coming out in the fall. The next book is Perfect Crime by Helen Fields, and the problem with this one is it's the fifth in a series, and I just read the first book in the series, Perfect Remains, in December. So I've got 3 books in between. I'm excited, and it's on this list because I didn't know there was a new book in the series. I'm just late in discovering it, so I definitely need to catch up, but I'm happy to see the series is still going. I didn't read anything about it because I always worry in a series, like if you, like on the back, if it's like recovering from so-and-so's, death, or now that so-and-so is not there anymore, or something like I don't want to find out that the characters in book 1 are not in book 5. So I literally read nothing about this other than the name of it, and that's basically it. But if you haven't read Helen Fields, these are police procedurals set in Scotland, and they're definitely on the dark side. There is some somewhat gruesome violence on the page, but it's sort of a kind of a gritty police series, and you do get some of the personal life of the people, but it is mostly focused on the crimes and the investigation. So if that's your jam, check them out. They're really good. I read 1. I really enjoyed it. I'm totally going to pick up book 2. I just haven't for no other reason other than there's just not enough hours in the day and there's too many books that I want to read. But excited to see that the series is still on the move. The last book on my list, which sounds kind of wild and kind of messed up, is The Passengers by John Marrs. And I discovered him in January. Thank you again to Lisa at Books and Smiles for including The One, which was the book in kind of her best of thrillers. And I read it compulsively, like in a 24-hour period. And I'm so excited to see what he does next. So these are standalone books. You don't have to read one to read the other. But if you haven't read The One, side note, read it because it's ridiculously good. But The Passengers is about, so it's 8 people who are driving, or who are in self-driven cars, and somebody hacks the system and puts all 8 cars on a collision course. And The One sort of had a scientific aspect to it too. So you've sort of got this crazy technology, and then it gets kind of Hunger Games-ish where like, although not quite, but like the public votes on, I guess, who survives the collision. I don't really know how that all works. And then it's also like these 8 people that are in the cars are kind of not what you think they are. So maybe whoever hacked the system thinks they deserve to die, or it's some sort of like, and then there were none type of a thing where like you all committed a crime and I'm here to make you pay for it. I don't even know. Like I said, it sounds legit messed up and I'm really excited for it. But I found, you know, the concept of The One to be so unique, and this sounds incredibly unique to me, which I'm really excited about. So he has some other books which I haven't read, which again, Broken Record Part 2. I need to read the other books on his backlist. But I'm excited that he has a new one coming out and it's got some good buzz. But it just sounds like a really cool story. So there you have it, 10 more books coming out in 2019 that I'm super excited to read, that I'm gonna add to my ever-growing TBR, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what all these authors come up with next, or in the case of Samantha Downing, what she comes up with, period, because I haven't read any of her books, and I don't even know if this is a debut or not. I need to look into her. But anyway, these are a whole bunch more books that are coming out, so let me know if you guys are excited about any of these, or if there's other books you're excited about. I'll include a link somewhere to the first video that I did. I will admit, I mean, it's only the beginning of February, but I haven't read any of the books. I know a few of them have already come out, but I'm trying to kind of chip away at my own bookshelf, and also every time I go to the library to try and get one of the new books, it's nowhere to be found, of course. Everyone's kind of you know, jumping all over it. So I will get to some of those books. I will get to some of these books, but let me know what you're excited about that's coming out in 2019. Let me know if I've missed anything that you think is super critical or that I should add to my list, because I'm sure I missed a ton. But thanks for hanging out today, spending some time listening to me talk, and hopefully we can talk, I was gonna say downstairs, down below in the comments about more books that are coming. So thank you guys. Hopefully I'll see you back here soon. And that's that. Bye everybody. Have a great one.